Geride bıraktığı pek çok sanayi kuruluşunun yanında en büyük yatırımını insanlara yaptı. Bize uzmanlığa, yeteneğe ve bilgiye saygı duymayı öğretti. Aramızdan ayrılışının 15. yılında Sakıp Sabancı'yı uluslararası araştırma ödülleriyle anıyoruz.
Bir gün dünyanın muhtelif yerlerinde Ahmetler, Meraller, Kemaller önemli postlar almış menajerler, umum müdürler olacaklar. Türk firmalarda ve yabancı firmalarda bayrağımızı, imajımızı dalgalandıracaklar.
Türkiye'nin daha iyi bir geleceğe kavuşmasında iyi yetişmiş, iyi eğitilmiş gençlerin önemine yürekten inandı. Geride bıraktığı pek çok sanayi kuruluşunun yanında en büyük yatırımını insanlara yaptı. Bize uzmanlığa, yeteneğe ve bilgiye saygı duymayı öğretti. Aramızdan ayrılışının 15. yılında Sakıp Sabancı'yı uluslararası araştırma ödülleriyle anıyoruz.
Bir gün dünyanın muhtelif yerlerinde Ahmetler, Meraller, Kemaller önemli postlar almış menajerler, umum müdürler olacaklar. Türk firmalarda ve yabancı firmalarda bayrağımızı, imajımızı dalgalandıracaklar.
Türkiye'nin daha iyi bir geleceğe kavuşmasında iyi yetişmiş, iyi eğitilmiş gençlerin önemine yürekten inandı. Geride bıraktığı pek çok sanayi kuruluşunun yanında en büyük yatırımını insanlara yaptı. Bize uzmanlığa, yeteneğe ve bilgiye saygı duymayı öğretti. Aramızdan ayrılışının 15. yılında Sakıp Sabancı'yı uluslararası araştırma ödülleriyle anıyoruz.
Bir gün dünyanın muhtelif yerlerinde Ahmetler, Meraller, Kemaller önemli postlar almış menajerler, umum müdürler olacaklar. Türk firmalarda ve yabancı firmalarda bayrağımızı, imajımızı dalgalandıracaklar.
Türkiye'nin daha iyi bir geleceğe kavuşmasında iyi yetişmiş, iyi eğitilmiş gençlerin önemine yürekten inandı. Geride bıraktığı pek çok sanayi kuruluşunun yanında en büyük yatırımını insanlara yaptı. Bize uzmanlığa, yeteneğe ve bilgiye saygı duymayı öğretti. Aramızdan ayrılışının 15. yılında Sakıp Sabancı'yı uluslararası araştırma ödülleriyle anıyoruz.
Bir gün dünyanın muhtelif yerlerinde Ahmetler, Meraller, Kemaller önemli postlar almış menajerler, umum müdürler olacaklar. Türk firmalarda ve yabancı firmalarda bayrağımızı, imajımızı dalgalandıracaklar.
Türkiye'nin daha iyi bir geleceğe kavuşmasında iyi yetişmiş, iyi eğitilmiş gençlerin önemine yürekten inandı. Geride bıraktığı pek çok sanayi kuruluşunun yanında en büyük yatırımını insanlara yaptı. Bize uzmanlığa, yeteneğe ve bilgiye saygı duymayı öğretti. Aramızdan ayrılışının 15. yılında Sakıp Sabancı'yı uluslararası araştırma ödülleriyle anıyoruz.
Bir gün dünyanın muhtelif yerlerinde Ahmetler, Meraller, Kemaller önemli postlar almış menajerler, umum müdürler olacaklar. Türk firmalarda ve yabancı firmalarda bayrağımızı, imajımızı dalgalandıracaklar.
Türkiye'nin daha iyi bir geleceğe kavuşmasında iyi yetişmiş, iyi eğitilmiş gençlerin önemine yürekten inandı. Geride bıraktığı pek çok sanayi kuruluşunun yanında en büyük yatırımını insanlara yaptı. Bize uzmanlığa, yeteneğe ve bilgiye saygı duymayı öğretti. Aramızdan ayrılışının 15. yılında Sakıp Sabancı'yı uluslararası araştırma ödülleriyle anıyoruz.
Bir gün dünyanın muhtelif yerlerinde Ahmetler, Meraller, Kemaller önemli postlar almış, menajerler, umum müdürler olacaklar. Türk firmalarda ve yabancı firmalarda bayrağımızı, imajımızı dalgalandıracaklar.
Türkiye'nin daha iyi bir geleceğe kavuşmasında iyi yetişmiş, iyi eğitilmiş gençlerin önemine yürekten inandı. Geride bıraktığı pek çok sanayi kuruluşunun yanında en büyük yatırımını insanlara yaptı. Bize uzmanlığa, yeteneğe ve bilgiye saygı duymayı öğretti. Aramızdan ayrılışının 15. yılında Sakıp Sabancı'yı uluslararası araştırma ödülleriyle anıyoruz.
Bir gün dünyanın muhtelif yerlerinde Ahmetler, Meraller, Kemaller önemli postlar almış, menajerler, umum müdürler olacaklar. Türk firmalarda ve yabancı firmalarda bayrağımızı, imajımızı dalgalandıracaklar.
Değerli konuklar,
welcome, distinguished guests. Welcome to the ceremony to commemorate Sakıp Sabancı and the ceremony to present the Sakıp Sabancı International Research Awards. We started our evening with a musical performance from Nils Lukas Rosen, who's a student at the Computer Sciences and Engineering Department, and Nadir Güler from the engineering department. Thank you very much for this wonderful musical performance. Today, we are here to commemorate Sakıp Sabancı on the 15th year of his passing as we present the International Research Awards that he wished to be presented. The late Sakıp Sabancı had a very international perspective, and he was one of the very important persons in Turkey. He always was a very warm personality who believed in the arts, and he always supported young people with his visionary personality, and science and the arts were always important for him. Now I would like to invite the chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the Sabancı University, Ms. Güler Sabancı, for her opening remarks. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Distinguished guests, dear Türkan Sabancı, distinguished family of Sakıp Sabancı, dear friends of Sakıp Sabancı, dear colleagues of Sakıp Sabancı, and the distinguished members of faculty who are with us today, including those from Sabancı University, distinguished students and distinguished members of the press, I would like to welcome you to this evening. This year marks the 15th year of the passing of Sakıp Sabancı, and I would like to welcome you to this ceremony on behalf of the family and Sabancı Group and Sabancı University. This year marks the 15th year of his passing, and it is also the 20th year of our university. The Sabancı University was designed with the enthusiasm of Sakıp Sabancı, and our aim was to educate free-thinking, wise, morally conscious, well-educated, unbiased global citizens. That was our goal as we established the university, and we always believed that these individuals would add value to humanity, science, society, and our country as well as life. And both he and all of us held this belief. Today, when we look at the success of our graduates who have spread out to all corners of the world, we are very glad to see that we are on the right path, and I'm sure that it would have made Sakıp Sabancı very happy as well. When our university was in the process of being established, our goal was not only to be one of the best in Turkey, but also one of the best around the world. And today we are very proud of the success of our university and its place in global rankings. And I'm sure Sakıp Sabancı would have felt the same pride. Distinguished guests, Sakıp Sabancı believed that society had to develop in all areas, and to him, social sciences was very important. It was a sine qua non. It had to be there, in his view. Looking at the global turmoil that the world is going through, our need to understand our era continues to rise, and therefore social sciences become more important, and this shows how forward-thinking Sakıp Sabancı himself was. Sakıp Sabancı always wanted everything that was done to have an international dimension, an international impact, and would always guide us to make sure that we worked with the best and in cooperation with the best. And that's the understanding that we have kept to this day. Last week, dear Dilek Sabancı, Sevil Sabancı, our rector Yusuf Leblebici, our dean Özgür Kıbrıs, our former rector Ayşe Kadıoğlu were in New York at the Columbia University. Dr. Dilek Sabancı and Sevil Sabancı have been very generous in establishing the Sakıp Sabancı Turkish Studies Center at Columbia University, and that center was opened through their support. The first lecture at the center was delivered by Professor Dr. Şevket Pamuk, And the chair of the Sakıp Sabancı studies will be announced very soon by Columbia University. This center, in my view, is a very important symbol that describes the vision and the values that were important to Sakıp Sabancı. He believed in the importance of international and activities which involved or focused on social sciences, and he always said that it was important to collaborate with the best. And within this thinking, we now see a very meaningful structure that emerged in Columbia University. So we were able to keep Sakıp Sabancı's name, and we will see his name prosper over the course of the future years with this collaboration with Columbia University. And Melissa Tapan is doing her master's in Columbia University right now, and I believe that she too will also be an integral part of this effort. I would like to take this opportunity to once again express our gratitude to the daughters of Sakıp Sabancı, Dr. Dilek Sabancı and Sevil Sabancı, on behalf of our university and the memory of Sakıp Sabancı. I'm sure he would have been proud of you. Distinguished guests, after this important development in Colombia, we will be commemorating Sakıp Sabancı today with you here in Turkey with the International Sakıp Sabancı Research Awards, which will be presented tonight. This is the first international award in the area of social sciences in Turkey, and its jury, processes, and participants live up to international standards, and I believe that this is very fitting to the memory of Sakıp Sabancı. Very soon, we will be presenting the awards to distinguished people of science on the subject of future of multilateralism in global turmoil, rethinking security, economy, and democracy. We will also be presenting essay awards to 3 young researchers. I would like to thank and express my congratulations to all of them. In addition, we will also be presenting an important award, a special jury award, to a scientist in the area of global security, economy, and democracy. We are very proud to have the recipient of this award with us today, Professor Joseph Nye, and I would like to congratulate him, and I would like to express my anticipation for his remarks. I also would like to thank all young academicians who have shared their research with us, who participated in the awards process, and I wish them success in their future endeavors. And I will announce next year's topic for the first time to you tonight. This is based on the decision of the Board of Trustees. We have decided to name the theme for 2020 as follows: Economy and Turkey's Future, Sustainable Environment, Transportation, and Energy. So on this subject, we will support young social scientists who will dwell upon these subjects in an academic platform, as we have done in the previous years so far. And I believe that the Sakıp Sabancı International Research Awards will continue to provide new horizons to researchers in the future as well. As I end my remarks, I would like to express my gratitude to all young researchers who applied for this award, and also to all members of the jury who worked very hard and within an international collaboration to reach their decision. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I would like to express our thanks to Sevil Sabancı, member of the Board of Trustees, who was instrumental in the organization of this evening. Also, our thanks go to Dr. Dilek Sabancı and Türkan Sabancı, who have always supported us. We thank our rector, Yusuf Leblebici, We also express our gratitude to Meltem Müftülerbaş, who is a member of faculty at the Arts and Social Sciences faculty. She was the president of the jury. And we would also like to express our thanks to the dean of the Social Sciences faculty and all members of faculty who led the Sabancı University's effort in this awards process. I also would like to express our thanks to the Istanbul Policy Center, especially our Vice Rector Fuat Kemal. And I would also like to thank everyone, Yekta Kara and our Secretary General Haluk Bal, and all staff at the university and all colleagues in the holding company. Thank you all very much for bringing us together tonight. Tonight is a special, a very meaningful evening for us. And we would like to thank you, our guests, for being with us on this very special, important day on behalf of the Sabancı family, Sabancı University, and friends. I hope that tonight will be befitting to Sakıp Sabancı's reputation. Thank you.
Sayın Güler Sabancı'ya
Thank you very much, Ms. Güler Sabancı, for your opening remarks. Before we proceed with the award ceremony, I would like to briefly remind you of all the research awards from past to present time. Distinguished guests, for the last 14 years we've been organizing and presenting Sakıp Sabancı International Research Awards. This year our theme is Future of Multilateralism in Global Turmoil, Rethinking Security, Economy, Democracy. The Jury Award and Essay Awards will be presented in two separate sections. For each year, we have a jury composed of an independent and international jury with very valuable scientists who are internationally acknowledged. These are our juries. President of the jury, Meltem Müftülerbaş, Sabancı University Arts and Sciences Faculty, William Burkhardt University of Pennsylvania, Kemal Derviş, Brookings Institute Vice President Eric Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, Ayşe Kadıoğlu, Sabancı University, the Arts and Sciences Faculty, Fuat Kemal Sabancı University, Vice President, Director of Istanbul Policy Center, Özgür Köprüs, Dean, School of Arts and Social Sciences, Sabancı University. This is our valuable jury. The essay awards are assessed for originality, methodology, and clarity of research results, and relevance in terms of this year's theme. Like every year, this year too, Sakıp Sabancı International Research Awards received many applications from Turkey and abroad. In the last 14 years, we had more than 390 young scientists apply for the award. The jury award is presented to an international acknowledged expert in the field. Now, this is the time when we will hear the results of the jury. I'd like to invite the Sabancı University member of faculty and president of Meltem Müftüvar-Baş. Güler Sabancı, President of the Board of Trustees, dear students, distinguished academicians, my colleagues, welcome. Welcome to the ceremony. I will first present to you our young researchers. Let me explain this for my students. We call young researchers under 45 years of age. They may not sound very young to you, but for a scientist, they're pretty young. Before I start presenting them, I would like to start with one important fact. When one speaks about science in Turkey, a lot of people think about natural sciences, medicine, or maths, but we have also political science, psychology, sociology, and international relations. And all of these are theoretically and methodologically as scientific as engineering, but they have to suffice with less resources, and they're usually more neglected. This is why Sakıp Sabancı's heritage is so important to us, because he contributed to social sciences with an award that made social sciences more acknowledged and valuable for the Turkish audience. After this explanation, I'd like to talk about the theme for this year. Some of you may remember 1989, and that was exactly 3 decades ago. If you ask me, it was just yesterday. In 1989, it was the end of the Cold War and the collapse of the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact. In international relations, a lot of people started to think that liberal order has now become irreversibly settled. The end of the Cold War was acknowledged as a victory of liberal order, regime, and everybody thought that politically all the problems had been solved. And when we look at the present time, what do we see in our surrounding? In our surrounding, we see that the basic rules of democracy are being destructured in many countries. Financial turmoil is everywhere, and everybody's questioning liberal regime, and liberalism has changed many countries, and the main fortresses of liberalism, like the United States, is also going through a transformation. This means that we are at a turning point, and we don't know what our next step will be. If we think about the global transformation, and if we believe that liberal democracies will be collapsing or transforming, it is very sure that we will be encountering a new regime in the world. And what can we do in order to prepare for this? This was why we wanted the essays to focus on this issue. We selected 3 essays. We're an international jury. I was presiding the jury. We received many essays on all of these topics, and most of them came to us in a double-blind manner, which means that we don't know the authors of those essays. The young researchers who are younger than 45 are for us numbers 10, 16, and 17. We don't know who the other numbers are because we learned about the identity of the award winners only after they were awarded, and we still don't know who the other applicants are. And we also received some applicants who made great essays with very successful empirical data on nation states. The only reason they're not here is because their essays were not relevant for this year's theme. The essays we chose were innovative, they had high scientific originality, and their empirical data had the capacity to make new contributions. We have 3 essays, and after we found out the identity of those 3 researchers and matched them with the CVs, we came up with a very interesting picture. Now I would like to introduce to you those essays and their authors. We have 3 equal awards for those 3 essays, so the order of presenting them is not very meaningful. 1, Maria Paz. Maria Paz is not with us, unfortunately. Last week she suffered an accident. She broke her arm and her pelvis. She just sent a note. Maria Paz is a PhD from Harvard. Currently she is working in Georgetown and Stanford universities, and her essay is titled The World of Walls. And Maria argues in her article that the world is facing a very important challenge today, and this is forced migration. 70 million people have been displaced because they were forced to displace, and more than half of this population is minors. And this, in fact, means that we are facing a very important international challenge, and her solution to that is as follows. Firstly, all the international organizations have been doing some work for displaced people, but she made a research which shows that all of those organizations were in fact complicit in this displacement. And a world of walls means a world of walls hiding some people from others. Morocco and Spain, Israel, Palestine, and US, Mexico were given as examples to those walls, and she describes that those walls separate the populations, but unfortunately international law cannot describe this situation as an international crime. Murillo is very happy to receive the award, and she'd like to visit Turkey if she can later. We have Cosette Creamer, who's with us. Cosette Creamer essay was titled Judicial Responsiveness in the WTO, the World Trade Organization. Cosette has a PhD from Harvard and a JD from Harvard. She is Lightning Scholar in University of Pennsylvania and University of Minnesota. Her essay is on international law and international relations, how they interact and transcend one another, and she focused on free trade of goods. And she believes that the main problem we're facing in the WTO, as an example, and she argues that trade wars have now become more political than legal and have become a matter for political dispute. Cosette is with us, and congratulations to her. Third essay. Let's put it this way. It's not an order. 1, 2, 3 is not the order. That is, the first article that I spoke about was the forced circulation of people. And if the second is free circulation of goods, what do we have for the third? We have freely circulating people, and how do they become a commodity in trade? The third article argues the situation when we have the free circulation of people as commodity. Can China control anti-trafficking? Is the third essay. I haven't said the name yet. I'll tell you the story of the name before I say it. In 1999, Sabancı University received the first undergraduate students. We have a lot of undergraduate students there in the dark. They can raise their hands. In 2003, we had the first graduates. When we came to Sabancı University with my husband in 2009, our undergraduate program had exactly 6 students. We don't have 600 today either, but each student had 2 or 3 faculty. It's usually the reverse. One of those undergraduate students who graduated in 2003 went over to Rochester University for a PhD. After the PhD, she became a co-worker as a member of faculty. At the beginning of this year, unfortunately, she wanted to move to Bochum University. And this is number 16, Kerimcan Kavaklı. And when I saw the name on the essay, I was so happy, and we called it Maiden Sabancı essay. And Kerimcan is last but not least for us. And Kerimcan Kavaklı is our graduate from year 2003, and he argues that the rise of China weaken global governance, and he mainly argues the evidence from the anti-trafficking regime and whether China balances the United States with this evidence. He ends with a more positive note, and he says China has a tendency to control human trafficking like the United States, and all of those essays, all three of them, have a global management approach in terms of circulation of people, circulation of commodities, and circulation of people as commodities. So they have scientific contributions, very solid, very comprehensive, very original, and with their empirical data, they have the capacity to lead the way to new research. I'd like to congratulate all the researchers, Cosette and Kerimcan. Now I would like to invite Cosette Kremer and Kerimcan Kavaklı to receive their awards. Mori of us, because of the unfortunate accident she suffered, won't be here tonight. I would like to invite Sakıp Sabancı and Fuat Keyman, the Vice President of Sabancı University, to present the awards. Cosette Kremer, congratulations. Now Kerimcan Kavaklı will receive his award with your applause. Thank you very much and congratulations. Maybe we can have a family photograph. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you very much, and Cosette will make her speech, and Kerimcan Kavaklı will stand with me and will listen to Cosette's presentation.
Thank you very much. I want to start by saying, first, I want to apologize that I'll be speaking in English. I had relatively short notice, and I couldn't learn Turkish in a month. So hopefully what I will say, most of you will be able to understand it. First, I want to express, I want to say how honored I am to be here and express a really heartfelt thank you to Sabancı University and to the Sabancı family for making this opportunity possible, for really galvanizing today's thought leaders, right, to tackle some of the pressing challenges that we're facing in the modern age. I also want to thank Meltem for sort of making me aware of this opportunity and for really raising the profile of the university. I appreciate that. I appreciate the University of Pennsylvania, Perry Worldhouse at the University of Pennsylvania for providing me with a really rich intellectual and policy-relevant environment to make possible the research that formed the basis of my essay. I want to thank all of my mentors along the way, particularly at Harvard University. Beth Simmons, who is not here today, is a phenomenal mentor that has really supported me along the way. And for all of the PhD students who are out there in the audience, I encourage you to find those mentors out there. I would also like to thank the jury who selected my essay for seeing value in my musings on world trade. As this year's Sabancı International Research Award call for essays recognizes, we're currently facing pretty widespread backlash against institutions of global governance. and the liberal international order that has really facilitated global prosperity for the past 5 or 6 decades is facing increasing pressures, both internally and externally. My essay that was selected is part of a broader research agenda I have that really seeks to tackle these challenges head on, to really try to unpack why it is that multilateral organizations are facing such pushback and what the obstacles are to international cooperation today. In doing so, my essay and my broader research agenda considers how we can design more participatory and responsive institutions of global governance. And I think this couldn't be more timely than it is right now, when we're seeing globally growing discontent, turmoil, and political polarization. And we've really witnessed in the past few years experiences that have made us realize that these standard traditional narratives of globalization and economic liberalization are not satisfying broad swaths of the world's population. I think in response to this, we should pay heed to, and I did a little bit of research and sort of unpacked and looked into the philosophy of Sabancı University. And I think in response to these growing challenges, we should pay heed to the Sabancı University's pedagogical approach, its interdisciplinary approach to learning how to learn, and figure out how we can all learn how to learn differently, to make progress in critical areas that underpin the global order. Speaking of insights into the global order, I'd be remiss in not mentioning that it is truly an honor to be here this evening and to be sharing the stage with Professor Joseph Nye, whose work I've admired for many, many years. So again, thank you. It is truly an honor to be here.
Peki. Evet. Kerimcan Kavaklı, mikrofon sizin.
Kerimcan Kavaklı, you have the floor. Distinguished guests, good evening. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the jury for awarding my essay. Sakıp Sabancı International Research Awards through the years awarded and supported many valuable researchers and made them more acknowledged internationally. It has now become a very well-received award with a good reputation around the world, and it is an honor and a pride for me to receive the award. This award is more meaningful for me because, as Professor Bach said, I'm one of the first students who got admitted to Sakıp Sabancı University in 1990, and I had a chance to briefly meet with Sakıp Sabancı when I enrolled in the university, and I had a chance to witness his enthusiasm about the university, its teaching, and its students. I met all my professors at Sabancı University, and it has become my academic hub for years to come. It's a home for me, and therefore it's an honor for me to receive the award that is given in memory of Sakıp Sabancı. I study how human trafficking gets influenced by the global developments. I tried to research how global powers have an influence on this trafficking. I was able to access important data, and I am planning to expand my studies in the future. I'd like to thank my wife and my parents. The name of the essay may be only my name, but I wouldn't be here without the support of the people who love me. My parents, Meral and Semih Kabaklı, always supported me, guided me throughout life, and helped me to put big targets and attain them. And their support continues even today. You wouldn't believe me, but I am standing here with some holy seeds in my pocket. I'm very happy that they're here today, and I would like to once again thank them for all their support. Thank you very much, Kerimcan Kavaklı and Cosette Greener. Congratulations and thank you. Now I would like to invite Nikas Rosen and Nadir Güler, two of our students, for their musical performance.
Nadir.
Niels and Nadir, our applause go to both of you. Thank you very much. Now we come to the most important moment of the evening. I would like to invite Meltem Müftülerbaş, the chair of the jury, once again to announce the special jury award. Yes, please, you have the floor again. Yes, this is the big moment. Well, let me start in the following way. When we speak of international relations theory, as many of my students here will know, you start with Kenneth Walls and you read some other thinkers, theoreticians, and you arrive at the 1970s. And you see that all this realist theory and its foundations were shaken by two important publications. One in 1975, Power and Interdependence, and the other one in the beginning of the 1970s, Joseph Nye and Robert Kahan's books on international relations and economy. And in both of these books, the following theory is pursued. We call this neoliberal institutionalism. And according to this theory, so actions which are defined as power only make up a small portion of international relations according to this theory. And international relations as such has a broader spectrum, and it involves a number of different definitions of power. Hard power, in that sense, is not the only instrument available according to this theory, and that the power to convince individuals and states is important, diplomatic engagement is important, and the rise of trade in some areas becomes very important. International norms also play an important role. International cooperation, the increasing of international cooperation, is also very important. So how to prevent wars has to do with the rising strength of some norms. And as norms grow stronger, then you have a rational umbrella under which the material impact or cost of wars continue to rise, and therefore they may be prevented. Excuse me. It's not very easy for me to introduce Joseph Nye to you. There will be a film to introduce him, which you will be seeing in a few moments. What distinguishes him from other people in his field is that he looks into the international relations of many countries, and his views have become a handbook. And during the presidency of Clinton, his policy relevance also came forward. So he distinguishes himself in that sense. And you know, we in Turkey too, we talked about the soft power of Turkey. We had a change in Turkey's foreign policy, and this was all inspired by Joseph Nye. So I think it's very interesting also for our students who are here in the room, because they learned that you're coming and you are like a rock star. Our students are waiting to listen to you, and they're all very enthusiastic, excited, because your work has been one of the most important work that they've been studying. And one of them actually told me today that they would not have been happier if Obama were here. So they're happier that you're here, and Obama wouldn't have made them as happy. So complex interdependence, soft power, neoliberal institutionalism, these are all concepts that Joseph Nye introduced to international relations, and this has shed light to the work of other academicians, and many countries, including the United States, have from time to time determined their foreign policy instruments based on his theories. So I'm not going to go on, because I know you're all waiting for Joseph Nye to address you. I like this idea of having holy seeds in your pocket. I will talk to Kerimcan. Maybe I do the same thing for my daughter. If placing some sacred seeds in my child's pocket works, that would be great.
Soft power is what one needs to make an effective foreign policy.
The art of diplomacy is trying to get agreements before the guillotine has fallen.
The way you would deal with it essentially is in cooperation.
The world is not unipolar. The world is multipolar.
Joseph Nye is here. He is the former dean of the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. He was also chairman of the National Intelligence Council and an assistant secretary of defense in the Clinton administration.
One thing that's unique about Joe Nye is that he has made a major academic contribution, but also been a major policymaker. The work on interdependence and political economy that Nye and I did together in the early 70s. There were two books. One is called Transnational Relations and World Politics, which introduced the field to the conception that it wasn't just states that are important in world politics. And then we followed it up with Power and Interdependence, which explores the political aspects of interdependence, which is now known as globalization, but wasn't then. So that's the first set that's with me. I think the second set of contributions by Joe are entirely his own, are the notion of soft power, which he developed in 1990 and then developed further over the next 15, 20 years as a way of thinking about influence in world politics from the point of view of changing others' preferences as opposed to coercion or other kinds of sanctions.
So to give a name to this and to give a conceptual coherence and integrity and logic to this, I think has been really a seminal contribution to international affairs, and one that has seeped into the lexicon of both work on international relations and policy.
Well, I think soft power, which is the ability to get what you want through attraction rather than coercion or payment, can come from a country's culture. It can come from also a country's ideals, and it can come from a country's policies. So in the cultural area, I mean, you have not just films and like Hollywood, but you also have universities. I mean, if you look at the attractiveness of the United States, it's often people wanting to come to Stanford or to Harvard or to have that experience. And you find it in the country's literature, in a country's music. So where a culture is attractive, that can make a country have a degree of soft power.
First thing to say is that Joe has been a remarkably important figure in a number of different realms. Someone who's managed to have a big impact as a scholar and researcher, as a policymaker, and as an academic administrator. There are very few people who you would say have achieved more and in more different realms than Joe Nye.
Lirik şair Archilocus'un söylediği bir ifade var. Bu akademide sıkça kullanılır. İfade şöyle: The fox knows many things, the hedgehog knows only one thing, one big thing. Yani bu demek oluyor ki tilki birçok şey biliyor ama kirpi tek bir şeyi biliyor ama önemli bir şeyi iyi biliyor. Akademi daha ziyade kirpi gibi derinlemesine çalışmalar yapmak, bir konuda uzmanlaşmayı öne çıkarır. Bu makbuldür. Şimdi bu ikisini bir araya getirmek, yani derinlemesine bilgi üretmek ile geniş uygulanabilirliği olan bilgi üretmek çok az akademisyene nasip oluyor. Profesör Nye bunlardan birisi.
Nye'nin en önemli katkılarından birisi de kavramlarının sadece Amerika ve Amerikan dış politikası için değil, esasında dünyadaki birçok gelişmiş ve gelişmekte olan ülke için de geçerli olması.
Çok boyutluluk ve versatilite ya da çok amaçlık dediğimiz zaman Joseph Nye geçmişten geleceğe önemli bir köprü ve geleceği de aydınlatan çok önemli bir fener olarak görmek lazım.
Well, I love Joe. He's wonderful. I think Joe has a very even disposition in the first place. I've rarely seen him get really angry about something. Well, we talk about Joe as Olympian. We refer to Joe as Olympian, which means he has a really strong sense of himself and a strong sense of self-confidence, which means he's not arrogant, because he has the internal self-confidence to believe that even if he's wrong on this issue, totally wrong on what he's arguing, and if I criticize it and tear it all apart and it just has nothing left to it, he doesn't feel that his identity has been diminished, because he has such a sense of himself.
I love to do things that are outdoors. I actually love to plant vegetables, so I grow vegetables in the summer, and in the fall we have a little local fair in the small town we live in where they have competition for the vegetables, and I get great pride if my cauliflower or my kale comes in first place. So you can talk about all the academic prizes you want, but if you get the prize for the best cauliflower in the fair, that's really important.
Thanks to Sabancı University for giving this award to Joe Nye, because I think it shows Sabancı's vision of including the world and recognizing the world's impact, the interrelationship between the university and the larger world, between scholars in Turkey and scholars in the international community. And no one, I think, exemplifies that more than Joe Nye with his concepts of soft power and complex interdependence.
Sabancı ödülünün bu seneki özel ödülünü kendisine veriyor olmaktan biz çok memnunuz. Çok yerinde bir ödül olduğunu düşünüyoruz ve kendisinin de burada olduğundan dolayı çok müteşekkiriz.
Sabancı is a very famous university, and when a university of that fame offers an award, it is indeed a very great honor, a very great privilege.
Konuklar, Professor Joseph Nye. Please. Ve Sayın Joseph Nye ödülünü
To present his award, the award to Professor Joseph Nye, I'd like to invite the chair of the Board of Trustees, Güler Sabancı, and rector of Sabancı University, Yusuf Leblebici, please. I'd like to invite you on stage to present the award. Thank you very much.
bir fotoğraf için size hep birlikte
A photo, please.
Sayın Güler Sabancı ve Sayın Yusuf
Thank you very much to Ms. Sabancı and Mr. Leblebici. Now we will listen to the speech by Joseph Nye.
Let me repeat what I said in that little film, that it is truly a great honor to be honored by a great university, and to be here at Sabancı University and to receive this award is very much a highlight. But let me also say that I was delighted by the younger scholars and their presentation and awards. I had the good luck, my friend Meltem had already sent me the papers that these scholars had written. I didn't know them, but I marked to my wife Molly, who is here with me, and who you saw in many of those pictures. These are very good papers. So Sabancı has a wonderful younger generation to be proud of. Now, I sometimes, when people say that they've read my books, I'm reminded of the fact that I'm not sure whether that's something I should apologize for or not. My father never graduated from high school, and he did all right in life, and he used to say he loved my books because he read one page before going to bed every evening, and it didn't matter which page. It worked perfectly well. So when people say, oh, I love your books, I'm not quite sure what they mean. The other thing that I'm often asked by students, who I gather there are a number here tonight, Sabancı students, is, you know, I'm not sure what I want to do when I grow up. I'm puzzled about what I'm going to do. And I often reply to them, don't worry about it. I still don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up, or even whether I'm grown up. Life is full of surprises, and if there's any wisdom that I've accumulated over time, is that you should follow your curiosity and your intellectual interests, and just keep true to your own self and your own integrity, and then things will turn out. So don't worry too much whether you know the plan or what's going to happen at the end. I'll give you a few biographical details of what those surprises are like and the importance of what you might call serendipity or surprises in life. When I was a senior in college at Princeton University, I ran into a professor in the library, and he said, Nye, what are you doing next year? And I said, I'm going to go into the Marines. At that time, all young Americans had to serve 2 years in the military. And he said, no, don't do that. He said, you should apply for a Rhodes Scholarship to Oxford. So I did, and I won it, and I wound up spending the next 2 years at Oxford instead of in the Marine Corps. And when I was at Oxford, I had a friend who was from Africa, from Ghana, and he and I would sit long in the evenings debating the question of whether Africa would become democratic or not. He was assured that it would. I hoped that it would. In many cases, African countries have not been able to preserve democracy. But it got me so interested in the question that I went and did my PhD research in Africa. And I didn't know what I was going to do after I finished my PhD research, but I thought maybe I would go into the State Department or do something international. And as I was standing on the lawn at the East African Institute of Social Research in Kampala, Uganda, I was handed an envelope, and it came from Harvard, and they said, we'd like to offer you a job as an assistant professor, starting at the magnificent salary of $7,000. And I thought, well, I'll try it for a little while. I had no idea the little while would take so long. And then, eventually, I was invited to go into the State Department to work in the Carter administration. So my idea of working in the State Department did occur, but not at all in the way I expected it to occur. So the reason that I mentioned all this is that as you do your work as a student, as you try to plan your future, be aware that you can't control everything. What you can control is your own intellectual curiosity and your own sense of integrity. If you keep those, somehow the rest of it will work out, and you don't have to worry too much about how you'll turn out. There's a famous American theologian named Reinhold Niebuhr who developed a prayer that has become known as the Serenity Prayer. And it says, Lord, give me the serenity to accept that which I cannot change, and the courage to change that which I can change, and the wisdom to know which is which. If you keep that in mind, then things will work out all right. Now, let me say a word or two about soft power and what it means and what it might mean for Turkey. People often say, how did you come upon the idea of soft power? And in fact, it was sitting at the kitchen table writing in longhand about a book that I was trying to explain why I didn't think that the United States was in decline. At that time, it was very fashionable in 1990 to say that the Americans were finished, a little bit like Philip II's Spain. And that there was my colleague and friend Paul Kennedy, who wrote a book called The Rise and Fall of the Great Powers, and he predicted that the Americans were finished. And I thought there was something wrong with this, so I totaled up sort of the American military power, and I looked at the American economic power. I said, but there's something missing in terms of explaining what's happening in the world, and that's the ability to get what you want, not through military or economic coercion or payment, but through attraction. A lot of what we do when we talk about power, which is the ability to get others to do the things we want, we do through attraction. Very few of us spend our lives going around beating other people over the head or paying to do what we want. We actually rely all the time upon attraction. And that's what I call soft power, that ability to get what you want through attraction rather than coercion and payment. Now, unfortunately, in international politics, we haven't spent enough time on the importance of attraction. But over the long term, it makes a huge difference. In that sense, I think the thing that intrigued me most after I'd written this book and developed this term, soft power, to explain this extra or third dimension of power, what intrigued me was in 2007, President Hu Jintao, the president of China, told the 17th Party Congress of the Chinese Communist Party, China needs to invest more in its soft power. And China is indeed now working very hard to increase its soft power. And indeed, under President Xi Jinping, they've inserted the term soft power into the constitution of the Chinese Communist Party. Now, that's very interesting because it's a long way from my kitchen table, writing in longhand when the president of the largest country in the world decides that that's going to be part of their party constitution. But the problem, I think, that we have to ask is not whether soft power can solve all of the world's issues. It can't. Power has dimensions of hard power, which are very important. But what worries me is that people too often think only about the hard power dimensions and not enough about soft power. And soft power derives for countries out of their culture when it's attractive to others, out of their values when they are attractive to others and when people practice what they preach, and out of their policies when their policies are seen as legitimate in the eyes of others. And I'm unhappy right now that in the United States, we have a president who talks about America first and doesn't invest in the State Department or the Agency for International Development, and who downplays multilateral institutions and alliances. The net effect of this is if you look at international public opinion polls, you'll see that American soft power, our attractiveness, has declined quite severely over the last 2 years. Now, that's unfortunate because it sets it's bad for the United States, but it also sets a bad example for other countries. Of course, when a president says America first, a president is elected to protect his or her own people. But there's a difference between putting your country first and putting your country above all others and not thinking in a long-term way of how you incorporate the interests of others. So I believe that the key to this is to have a broad, far-sighted view of what it means to have a national interest and to apply it in world politics. And I fear that right now we're going through a rough spell, particularly in the United States. However, there may be some good news here in the following sense. As I mentioned in that little film, a great deal of a country's attractiveness or soft power doesn't come just from what the government does. It comes from the civil society of the country. And that can often compensate for the government's actions. For example, in the 1960s, the United States was wildly unpopular around the world because of its policies in Vietnam. The Vietnam War was bringing people out in the streets, marching against the United States all over. But the thing that is most interesting to me is that these marchers in the street did not sing the Communist Internationale of North Vietnam. They sang, "We shall overcome," which was, of course, identified with Martin Luther King, which grew out of American civil society. So the fact that American civil society was producing values and culture which could attract people despite the fact that the government was doing terrible, unpopular things, that allowed Americans to recover their soft power, so that by the 80s, the United States was once again attractive. I hope we'll see the same thing happening in a few years. But let me then turn to Turkey and soft power. Turkey is an extremely important country. If you think about where Turkey stands in the world, it's really at the hinge of three great issues and cultures. Turkey is part of Europe, Turkey is part of the Middle East and the Islamic world, Turkey is part of the Turkic world, which stretches across all of Central Asia. So Turkey is, in a sense, a hinge for many, many great important cultural issues. Now, it has the bad fortune to be located in a difficult neighborhood. Some difficult things have happened next door. It's also had some bad luck with how things have happened at home. But I would say that if Turkey were to think about how it will look to its own future, soft power has to play a major role. If Turkey asks, can we control the world? Can we have a big influence through our military or economic power? Of course you need military and economic power. But if you ask, can Turkey attract people throughout the Muslim world, throughout the Turkic culture world, can attract people from Europe, that gives Turkey an amazingly important role. And thinking in terms of soft power, which used to be popular in Turkish foreign policy a decade or so ago, but seems to have ebbed and had little attention in recent years, I think Turkey will need to return to that in terms of the way it thinks about its own future. If I'm correct about the importance of Turkey, then I think Turkey will be using soft power again. And if I ask where will the soft power come from, going back to that example I used about how the United States recovered after the Vietnam War, I suspect that a lot of it's going to come from Turkish culture, including Turkish universities, and the excellence of Sabancı University and the type of work that Sabancı University is doing to preserve academic freedom and intellectual integrity, those are going to be very important for Turkish soft power in the future. So what I would say in accepting this reward with deep gratitude is let us all think ahead to the important role that Turkey will play using its soft power again someday, and let us think with particular gratitude to the role of Sabancı University in preserving academic freedom and intellectual integrity that will make that possible. So again, my thanks to all of you for this great honor and award, and my best wishes and hopes for the future of Turkey and Sabancı University. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nye, could you please just stay on the stage, Mr. Nye? Mr. Nye. Evet, Mr. Nye ile birlikte bir aile fotoğrafı için efendim törenimiz...
Invite the award winners, jury members, and presenters of the awards for a family photograph with Professor Nye.
Evet efendim, Sakıp Sabancı anma ve...
This is the family photograph of Sakıp Sabancı International Awards. Thank you very much. This concludes our award ceremony. We commemorate Sakıp Sabancı with respect and thank you once again for your presence. You're all invited to the cocktail. Have a good evening.